All right.
All
So
right.
here we are, Jodie. It's amazing to see you. Thanks so much for chatting with me and sharing some insights and a bit of sort of background on your career to date. Do you recall when you first got the sort of bug or taste that you wanted to be an actor?
I don't know how to answer that, honestly, but the first ever thing I ever watched was a drag queen, called Jackie Lester. And I can still see her to this day singing My Boy Lollipop. And it was just, because at the time, I grew up in a B&B. You know, it's not because my parents didn't like me, it's because they owned it. And they had acts on. They had these kind of vaudeville-esque acts on, and she came on and she dressed up in this really big brown curly wig. It's kind of like how I used to look, and just sang, and the audience were captivated, and I think that was just something, and I don't know why it triggered in me, just the fun of it all, and the kind of the entertainment value, and I loved it for that, really. So that was the first. I blame a drag queen for getting me into this industry.
Wow, well, that's incredible. And I suppose drag is like, it's often sort of dismissed as, you know, a sort of bit of, you know, camp entertainment, but the great drag queens, I mean, it's incredibly sophisticated humor, isn't it? And you know, it's not just about sort of putting on a mask, it's about challenging the world and the sort of politics and the status quo. And, you know, all of those great drag queens come out of a sort of political movement, don't they, to sort of create equality.
I agree. And the whole industry, genuinely, if we go back to the kind of the bare bones of it, was started by people just putting on these masks and standing out there and performing. And I think that's what a lot of, you know, TV and theatre do. You put on a performance, you put on a mask, and drag is definitely an offcut of that. And I've modeled myself on a drag queen ever since.
And that's interesting, growing up in the B&B. So were there other sort of characters? I mean, obviously they're such transient places with people coming in and out all the time. You must have observed as a child some extraordinary characters.
There was a couple of hotels down the road from us. There's my Auntie Eileen and my Uncle Tom, and they were as cockney as you ever wanted to imagine, right? And they just used to, Auntie Eileen used to give me a Yorkie bar, never forget that. But Uncle Tom would get on the piano, and it was a very kind of, I was brought up in a home environment that had a lot of music around it. There was always acts on in the hotel. There was always music being played. There was Danny LaRue in his summer season. There was Russ Abbott in his summer seasons. And that's because I was brought up in Blackpool, and it was the hub of entertainment and of great kind of TV stars that came and performed on the pier. So I was very lucky in a way that I did go down that road, and that did send me to a lot of working men's clubs that I've barely survived. And the first, and I always tell this story, I remember you had to go and spend fortunes on these stereos, you know, to take them everywhere, and these stands. So my dad took me to this working men's club in Manchester, and he loaded all the stuff in. I hadn't figured out ages how to put it all together, and I thought I got all my act lined up, and they were all songs, majority from the musicals. And the first one was Don't Cry for Me, Argentina. And I went to the audience and went, does anybody like musicals? And they all went, no. And I went, this is Don't Cry for Me, Argentina. And it was just that kind of, I will sing a musical to you. So, yeah, that's when it starts.
And was the dream always musicals then? Is that what you wanted to go into, musical theatre?
No, funny enough, when I was at school, I took a great love of Shakespearean work. I took a great love of kind of poetry. I know that sounds kind of like I did. And then the first taste of it, because I went to a girls' school, and sadly, there wasn't that access to brilliant drama classes. There was your speech and drama, and that was about it. But I went to audition for the National Youth Theatre, not the National Musical, and I got in there, and then it was like, I don't know, it was like going into Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. I was like, oh, these people are like me. They actually exist, you know, and I got that great hub of just creativity, and no, I loved that. And that was my first taste was actually the National Youth Theatre. So I always say to anybody, if you get a chance to audition for either of them, go. It's the most amazing experience. It really is.
Yeah, they're both amazing institutions, aren't they? And they're just incredible what they do for young people. I was a member of National Youth Theatre as well, and loved the summer school, and then subsequently directed at National Youth Music Theatre. And you just see, I mean, some of the kids I remember working with, like, I don't know, 10 years ago now, some of them were just in our West Side Story, others are carving out pop careers, others are in the West End. It's just phenomenal, isn't it? What they, sort of the confidence they give them as well.
He's just second to none. He was in our, is it Tom? Oh, this is me, you know me with names. Is it Tom Reid? He's done really well in America. He was in our year, and the other guy was in EastEnders, Mark, he was in our year. So it's really, I'm really good with names, aren't I?
I'm Nikolai, by the way.
Oh, lovely to meet you. I'm glad you brought that up. I was getting a bit worried then for a minute.
And you've mentioned people like Danny LaRue and Russ Abbott, and they're sort of influencers that you're sort of growing up in Blackpool. Who were your influences from a sort of acting perspective? Who were the actors that you were looked up to as a young budding performer?
Bizarrely, they kind of crossed with, and they were people like Liza Minnelli. I'm afraid I was a massive fan of, and Barbra Streisand, just those people that I was in awe of, people that could do everything, and they did everything. So they were kind of my two go-to people.
Wow,
I love them so much.
Yeah, I mean they're extraordinary. There was a program on, I think it was over the weekend, I've completely lost track of time now, but the Talking Pictures, where they sort of look back on people's careers, and they were doing a sort of snapshot of 1970s films, and they interviewed both Minnelli and Streisand with, you know, Funny Girl and Cabaret, respectively, major movies of the 70s. And, you know, just hearing them in interviews, they're so inspirational and so, just fascinating to listen to and, you know, hear about their process. So, what wonderful idols you had.
I mean, the way she grew up. I mean, Liza grew up in the hub of it all. Do you know who Liza Minnelli was friends with as a teenager? Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Really?
Yeah, little thing. Because when we did the Nancy show in 1946, we did. He brought there was the three final girls, and he brought Liza Minnelli to come and give us a singing lesson. So basically had this thing and then just sobbed for half an hour after that I'd met her.
And what was the sort of defining thing you took away from that singing lesson with her? What was the sort of gem that you sort of carry with you?
How she went, you just gotta see it, and you see it in the room. You know, you gotta be there. She wasn't Welsh, but she said you've got to just see it and believe it. And it was the one thing I thought when she said that, it is acting through song. You know, the one thing people always say, more so when you kind of focus or you kind of go to do a project, a play, they go, well, oh, it must be so different, you know, doing a play to a musical. And it's not. I said a play's just a musical, but with no songs. They are both the same entity. You're still kind of putting the same amount of effort into them, you know.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. People often ask me, you know, what's the difference between directing a play and a musical? And I can't really identify any good points for them, because, you know, sometimes you use text, sometimes you use music, sometimes you use lyrics, sometimes you use dance movement, but they're all telling story through character.
Yeah, I agree. I often ask them, well, how do you mean, how did a play make you feel in comparison to a musical? That's the one thing I'm curious, because I don't see no difference, but it's interesting to see from an audience perspective how they you know, how they view it, you know.
Yeah, you touched on Oliver at Drury Lane, and many of us obviously remember your astonishing performance as Nancy, and you touched on the Liza Minnelli story. What are your memories of that
well,
time?
they asked Liza to play, she turned it down, so I had to rock up. Oh my God, I would give everything to see Liza Minnelli play Nancy. Not the eyes, Bill, not the eyes. There was a brilliant, if you can get it on YouTube, there's a brilliant interview with Liza Minnelli, and not Dave Letterman, it's another guy, the one with the glasses, always wears a shirt. And anyway, he was interviewing Liza Minnelli, and he was going, you know, you're witty, you're you're beautiful, you're talented, you're funny. And she went, yes. And just the same. I love it. Sorry, I digress.
Yes, this is about you, not Liza Minnelli.
No, we could. Oh, we went to talk to, listen to Nikolai and Jodie, and it just turned out to be a show on Liza Minnelli.
And what did Nancy mean to you? What did that? She's such a sort of complex and well-written character. What did she mean to you?
I was, do you know what? Starting there, if I'm honest, it was the most nerve-wracking thing, because I'd never worked in that capacity. I'd gone for auditions for the West End and never got them. And ironically, the guy, I went to go for Tracy Turnblad, and it was when the first production of Hairspray came around, and it didn't get made for some reason. I can't remember, but I was down to the last 4. And David Grinrod, a beautiful casting man in this industry, came out and went, not this time, sweetheart. Well, that was it. I was broke. I was done. I mean, I'd done everything for that audition. I bought a hairpiece. I had to stretch out my tights, because anyone who wears capezios know how hard they are to get on. And it really, that broke me. And I'm not ashamed to say that. Not getting that part then really broke me and kind of almost stopped me going into the industry, because I thought, I can't feel this pain over a part, just something you want, something you almost crave, just to be part of that world. And it was David Grinrod who auditioned me as Nancy. So I always say to those people, when you feel you can't go on, just take that extra step, because it will happen. It's just that belief in happening. And I feel like I needed that on opening night of Oliver, because I was like, I can't believe I'm here. What am I doing here? I felt almost like a fake. It wasn't real. And then I thought, no, I'm going to have to step up to the plate, and just loved it for all it was worth. And I loved her as a person, and I loved the cast, and I loved the crew and the company. And I think that for me brought what I saw as Nancy out, was just, I tried to bring as much heart as I could into the part and into the building. And that's what I really loved about that whole show. It was amazing. It really was.
Yeah, it was. It was a luminous performance. It's sort of still etched in my memory now. It was absolutely stunning, Jodie.
Not that night when I fell down the manhole. It was. It was black. When I came, Tommy and Slam. Oh, she's gone. Where's Nancy gone? Oh, I've fallen.
But it's interesting what you say about the idea that, you know, this idea of imposter syndrome and feeling that you're not good enough, or you don't deserve a place there. I've certainly felt that a lot of my life, and I think there's a large group of us working in theatre or TV or entertainment business who maybe we come from non-traditional working class backgrounds, and you have a perception of what a West End leading lady is or what a director is, and you feel like you don't inherently fit into that mould. But I think you're absolutely right. We've all got something unique to offer, and it's amazing that somebody like Grindrod absolutely saw that spark and that ability in you and pushed you on, and thank goodness he did.
It's funny that, isn't it? Because you do feel like however you've got there, and some people think you have to train for years, or some people think you have to kind of not train and cut. There is so many avenues into it, but I still get imposter syndrome now, that you kind of go, why am I doing this? And then you go, no, I've worked really hard, I've put my graft in, I've done this. And it is that belief. But I think almost having that vulnerability in this industry, as hard as it is personally, I think it's helped with some roles, having that kind of, it's all right to bare your soul a little bit, and it's okay to kind of let your guard down, because as human nature, we don't often do that. You know, we're constantly questioning who we are, why we're here, and mind you, sometimes after what line was it? But you know, sometimes that kind of, it's funny, isn't it, that you still you expect to walk like Liza Minnelli, you know, with a row of white kittens behind you, and you know, Joe Malone candles wafting under your nostrils. It just only happens on a Tuesday for me when I demand it.
But you're absolutely spot on. It's in the moments of vulnerability that the real connection is made, whether it's to a fellow actor, whether it's in the rehearsal room between an actor and a director, whether it's between the audience and the performer. It's those moments which are completely undirectable, intangible, where the real connection comes. And I think that you've absolutely hit the nail on the head. It's hard, isn't it? Because like you say, you're going for auditions, you're getting knocked back. How can you allow yourself to be vulnerable? What you really want to do is put on your armor and sort of shield yourself from the world. And I think that's a great dichotomy that so many actors especially face, that you're asked really to be vulnerable and bare your soul, but you're working in a business which is a lot of the time sort of cruel and quite tough.
I think that's the one thing that I find hard in this industry. It's working. If I find somebody is guarded, if they have that kind of instinctual nature to almost be mean, I find it really hard working with those kind of people. It puts you on a knife edge when you kind of, if you have that mentality where you go, right, we're all in this together, and like what's going on in the world now, we're all in this together. We'll get through this. We don't have to knock each other down. We just build each other up piece by piece, and that's almost kind of in a way what we're going through right now is how we work in theatre. You know, sorry, thank you, sorry, that's Doris the cockerel, and named after Doris Day. I thought she was going to be a girl, but definitely not. And it's building these pieces together, and we will get there in the end. We do.
Yeah. Totally. And we last saw you at Curve in the NT stunning production of Sheila Delaney's A Taste of Honey. And again, you were absolutely astonishing in that role. And again, talking about vulnerability, you absolutely bared your soul, and it was a blisteringly honest performance. And you really went to the heart of what it meant to be poor and a working class woman from the North during this time. And I think that connected to so many of us who, you know, recognized that world, and it was such a true and honest depiction of it. How did you and your fellow actors approach the role and the world of that play?
It was a very different experience. So Bijan, instead of we didn't table read it as such, we got it straight up on our feet, and then we plastered around the room, you know, these pictures of Salford in that area, you know, the struggle, and it was one of the worst slums in the whole of the UK. In fact, I think at one point it was the worst slum, and the struggles of these people. I say lucky. It's not lucky, is it? That I had that kind of backlog of stories, and I had them from my nan, who grew up in Manchester, and they struggled, and you know, they'd be, you know, cleaning all day and working at the laundry and working at the cafe, but then she'd get all glammed up at night, which is just something Helen did. I mean, my nan wasn't a drinker like Helen, that never came from my nan, but a lot of it, all that came from my backlog of history. And you know, you kind of, and especially, she won't mind me saying it, with my mum, you know, we had this kind of a walrus relationship, and all that kind of animosity all comes out of love. But we do battle royal, and that's it. Again, it came from a place where I know, and sometimes you're given these parts where it's lucky because you can put so much into it, because you've got that backlog of, you know, that history. But it was great. There's a brilliant book called A Taste of Honey by Selena Todd, which is a brilliant insight into Sheila Delaney's life. And again, Charlotte Delaney, this wonderful, extraordinary woman, her daughter, gave us so much insight into Sheila, and she's been really involved with it. And little things like when Helen and Joe are sat on the couch at the end, and they're talking about, I used to play with tops and hoops and stuff. That little snippet was recorded from Sheila's mum about how she used to play as a child, and all these insights. You could literally, as Liza would say, you could see it, you know? And I think that was great to have that wealth of knowledge from all corners. And again, Bijan, who directed it, had directed it previously at the National. And again, you come with that catalogue of knowledge of how to kind of, what works, you know, what we can kind of mould and where we could take it. So that was, you know, I loved it, really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, it was, as I say, it was absolutely stunning. And we've worked together now in a couple of productions, Annie, Calamity Jane.
And we've survived.
What, sorry?
And we've survived.
We've survived. We've absolutely survived. And what really struck me the very first time we worked together in rehearsals was just how brave you are and how egoless you approach everything, and how any suggestion, any idea, you just throw yourself into the rehearsal process.
It's exciting, go with it. And it was, and I'm not just saying this because you're there, but we've all said the same. It was brilliant working with you. You again, no ego, and that's just no ego. Is being in a room like that is creatively exciting, because you don't know where you're going to end up. Even though it took us 10 years to get that Deadwood stage do you remember doing that wagon? Oh, that choreography. If people, I'd love audiences to know the work that goes into any scene. I don't think people, I'd love it if you could almost film the whole process, because I think it's just fascinating.
Yeah, I think sometimes when we have groups come into rehearsals,
yeah,
I think sometimes they don't quite understand what's going on, because I think often in the rehearsal room, I think probably from the outside eye, it doesn't actually look like there's a lot going on, because apart from if somebody's learning a big dance routine, it's sort of this weird sort of thing of trial and error, trying something, going back over, offering some thoughts, going back over, and you're sort of gently and methodically building this huge jigsaw piece. And as you say, you can't quite imagine, even I think if you are watching it, quite the level of detail and sort of intensity that goes into any piece of theatre.
I agree. And I think as well, times like that in rehearsals, you know, you can never be stubborn, even if you have that vision. I mean, I saw that happen once. I'm not going to name any names, I'll tell you later. When we were rehearsing One Man, Two Governors, and it's horrible to watch when someone can't allow themselves just to try something different, or just to have a different perspective on it. So it's just allowing yourself to be in that room and be present, you know.
From plays, musicals, presenting. And I often find, which I'm sure you do, there's a lot of snobbery, I mean, across society generally, but certainly in British theatre. Yes. I think when performers who are known for musicals move into plays, and there can be a bit of sort of negative sort of perception around that. Yeah. Have you ever experienced this? And if so, how have you sort of dealt with that?
With humour. I always deal with it with humour, which is my go-to kind of defence mechanism. I think it has been a battle for me to kind of go and keep doing plays and keep enforcing that it's okay to have a passion for this. And I always remember, and it was the first day, it was actually, I can't say, she's not with us anymore. I remember in the rehearsals for Oliver, and I know it wasn't a play, but it was the first bit of snobbery I really kind of made me go, oh no, I hope not, it's not all going to be like this. And in a rehearsal room, as you know, they tape out the stage, so you know where to exit and enter and all that. And my foot, I was just about to go, and my foot was about 2 inches over on the tape, and she got the back of my jumper and she pulled it back. She went, "You're not on stage yet, dear." And I was like, "I know, I'm so sorry." And it was just that kind of going, honestly, I know I didn't mean to do it. And I felt myself apologising a lot for being there. And then realising just get on with it. And it's actually a friend of mine, grandma, Nana Jean, who loves that Les Mis. Oh, I love that Les Mis. She does, she says...
Does she like Chicago as well?
Oh, that Chicago.
Yeah.
Let me sing that cell block tingo. I love that. She said a great thing: it's harder to be them than it is to be you. And that always echoes in my head. We are going to face snobbery, and it's just sadly part of the industry, and it's part of life, like you said, but it's having that insight going, I don't have to have those bitter feelings that they've got, and I hope they get through that and they can learn to eventually support, and because it's far nicer supporting than it is to shut the door on somebody. But that's
totally.
just that, isn't it?
And it comes from fear, doesn't it? I mean, we all have fear and anxiety, and some people reveal their anxieties in negative ways. And I think once you can learn just to, you know, as unpleasant as it can be sometimes, just to cancel and continue, and, you know, that's the best we can do, isn't it?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I pulled some people to rights and go, well, don't be like that, because it affects your career, it affects you mentally, it affects you kind of the jobs you get. You can't take this luggage on to other stuff. And I've had big sit downs with people going, you don't have to be like this, because it's just you just don't. So and then I put a bag of marbles down a flight of stairs and give them a push. But apart from that.
And can we just talk about like your process when you first know you're going to be playing a character and you receive the script? I mean, it strikes me that you are somebody who really does trust your instinct. And talking a bit about A Taste of Honey, you know, your relationship with your own mother, your grandmother, you've got this wealth of experience and this bank of memories that goes right back to the B&B, and you seem to have incredible emotional intelligence in terms of approaching these roles. What is your process? Is there do you have a sort of set way of doing it, or does it change with each role?
It does change with each role, actually, but I'd love somebody to offer me a quiet wallflower, but they're always quite loud alcoholics. So I don't know what that says. No, joking apart, I think each process is different. You can sometimes, if you're given something like new, or you're given something that's had kind of about 20 outings, shall we say. Example, Shirley Valentine. I remember going into the rehearsals from that, and the lady Glenn Walford, who was directing it, was the lady who originally commissioned it in the first place with Willie Russell. And Willie Russell was also involved in the process. And he said, don't watch the film. And I was like, oh, but it'd be great to kind of, no, don't watch the film. And that was good, because I wasn't technically allowed to access that data for that. And it gave a different almost kind of twist on it. And I had to take my own route with it and journey. And I appreciated that. But whereas like Taste of Honey, reading the book on, you know, called A Taste of Honey by Selena Todd, to have those little insights of the life and how it came about and the reviews, and it's good to get a grasp of what you're going into. Never be unprepared for something. You can really tell that when you walk into a room. Look at me. Always be prepared. I'm not going to name any names. Well, I can't, because I've forgotten his name. But we did some chemistry reading for Taste of Honey, and there was this one guy came in and he was wearing a cap, and I'm thinking, you're going to audition for the National Theatre here. You be on point. Never read it. Never did it. Cap down. And I was like, no, why are you wasting that beautiful opportunity, or not even having the inkling to read that beautiful piece, that play? And I go, so sometimes just be prepared. And that's what I try and be with arts and productions. And
I couldn't agree more. It's so important. I mean, so little of it, I think, comes down to our talent. I think that's obviously a major part. That's the sort of spark that ignites the fire. But the rest of it is just hard graft. It's just
do you ever get that in auditions? Do you get people who come in and just do you?
Yeah, I mean, you can absolutely tell when people have done their prep and when they have something intelligent and interesting and unique to say about the play, or, you know, the show you're auditioning for. And it's so clear. And obviously, like you, the more experienced you become, the more you sort of go on with all of this. You can absolutely smell it.
Mind you, you've got to admit, in auditions, I personally, I openly admit, I am not good in auditions. I can fall to pieces. It's just a weird, when you really want something, I can go into something and comedy has died. I've lost the ability to read, and I get terrible dry mouth and my lips stick to my teeth. So you can go in prepared, but you sometimes you fall to pieces. But
I think that's all right, because I think a good director, a good casting director, are going to see through all of that, the prep and everything you've done is still present within you. It's just that sometimes it can't get past the dry lip, or it can't sort of express itself quite in the way you want it to. But I do believe if you've done the work, it will always pay off, and it will be seen. And even if you're not right for a role, that work will not go unnoticed.
No, it's true. No, I do agree with that. I do. I remember, you laugh. I remember one time, this just brings to mind, I was asked, it was when Legally Blonde was in the West End, and I was called in for Paulette, and they sent me through the music. I was like, brilliant. I went out and bought a printer just to print the music, but I hadn't figured out how to properly work it. Well, I found that out at the audition when the file that they sent me through going, are you ready to sing Bend and Snap? I was like, yeah, just hadn't printed it out. It hadn't printed it out, so I had no clue. So I spent the entire audition going, Bend and Snap. It was like the pub singing of Legally Blonde. Never forget
brilliant.
That. Or make sure just use your old printer, don't buy a new one.
These top tips are fantastic, Jodie. It's inspired stuff. And you, like, we've touched on some of the phenomenal characters you've played, you know, everybody from Shirley Valentine to Miss Hannigan. Who's left on the Prenger hit list? Which characters are you sort of eyeing up at the moment?
I love Martha, Who's Afraid. I love Hello Dolly. I love Gypsy. I love the kind of any character with kind of this big kind of broken but glorious heart. So yeah, there's quite a few out there actually. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Good. Well, you'd be very welcome at Kirk for any of those roles.
After this interview, you're like, oh, Jodie, yeah, definitely cross her off the list. Thank you.
And aside from the printing tips, what sort of advice can you give any younger or aspiring actors who are watching this film? What would be your sort of top tips? Just
carry on, and especially in times like this, just fight through it. Please stay creative, stay motivated, stay connected. I know we're in lockdown, but we have the wonderful web that we can access, you know, past productions, we can access interviews, we can access people themselves. So it's just keeping that going and keeping that, you know, inspiring people and kind of rolling it on and keeping it going.
So, Jodie, what are you up to during lockdown, apart from looking after your menagerie of animals? What else is going on for you during the lockdown?
Well, I'm glad you can only see from my top half because I still got my wellies on underneath. So I'm going to go clean out my cows. But during that, I'm also playing secretary. Myself and a friend, Bobby Delaney, have started a non-profit business. So the money goes directly back to people who mentor. And then we also raise money for Acting for Others. And it's a website called vocalhome.co.uk where people can go get mentored by the people who cast them or the people that they've watched on TV or learn how to self-tape. And it's just keeping the creativity going and just helping support the arts where and however we can. So yeah, so I've been Secretary Jodie and cow cleaner by day.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Jodie. It's been absolutely incredible talking to you and so inspiring. Thank you so much.
Hey, ditto. Stay safe.